Welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about the 20s, the real founding of the Palm Beach State Academy, which is actually two schools we're going to talk about today. And again, with me today is Hilary Mendoza, co-author of Tradition and Change in Paradise, which, by the way, if you want a copy, we do have some at school, and you can buy it on Amazon. So let me pull up a little bit of a slideshow that I have, and we'll get going. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the Palm Beach School for Girls and the Palm Beach School for Boys, which are two separate schools. So first one I'm going to show you is the picture of the girls' school. And Mrs. Mendoza, if you could take it away.
Remember we were talking about Caroline Gates and her school out of doors? Well, they only served students from 7 to 14. But she was trying to get high school age. So what she did was she appointed Ada Davis as the headmistress of the Palm Beach School for Girls, and then she went to work for Willard Ferguson in the Palm Beach School for Boys, and basically brought her philosophy with her. And it was continuing individualized tutoring for those families, those students who were coming down from boarding schools in the north for the winter holiday, which was about mid-December to, at this point, it was mid-April. And so her basic philosophy was not only the out of doors, but she had a rigorous training for the girls, between starting at about 8:45 going to 11:30, and then once again we have that 2-hour surf bathing and ocean bathing time when the kids could actually go to the different clubs, which by this time, by the 20s, had been, the Everglades Club had been converted from a veterans convalescent home, and Marjorie Merriweather Post and her husband E.F. Hutton had developed the Bath and Tennis Club. So that's where they could go for that 2-hour time. Actually, that's quite a lovely artistic rendering of the Palm Beach School for Girls. And if you notice the tuition, and this was the same tuition for the boys' school. So primary 1, 2, and 3 was $250. Intermediate and junior high school. Junior high school was actually what we consider to be high school currently, was $300. And the girls did have kindergarten through 12th grade, with boys also joining the girls in the kindergarten.
Was there also a kindergarten?
Pardon me?
Was there also a kindergarten? I think we found.
There was a kindergarten for the girls' school, and the boys would be enrolled in that kindergarten, and then they would go over to the boys' school.
Well, I see it says boys and girls right there, ages 4 through 6.
Yep. And the boys' school didn't start till age 7 through 14. Ada Davis had been educated in Minneapolis, I believe, and she had also gone to Columbia for education. And she totally believed in her faculty spending the summer getting further degrees and further education. She totally was interested in that. And that was also something that Mrs. Gates advocated as continuing education.
So here's a picture of some of the students, and right. I see some little boys there.
Yeah, this is the kindergarten. This is a kindergarten class, and you see there are, looks like 4 boys in the back, and then the girls. And the other thing that the Palm Beach School for Girls is, it was not like other high schools. girls' high schools in that it was a finishing school. This was actually college prep courses in sciences, in math, in foreign language, in history. It was fairly rigorous. Do you want me to go on to the Palm Beach School for Boys?
I think we need to. And so you would have families that would have children in both schools, correct?
In both schools. The problem with finding out about the girls in the girls' school is that they wouldn't, unlike the boys' school, they did not publish the names of the students at all, nor did they publish the names of any advisory board. So it was hard to find out. But they were the sisters and the daughters of the people that had come down for the season. And the Palm Beach School for Boys, Willard Ferguson was its headmaster. And again, it had almost the exact same emphasis as Mrs. Gates' school and also the Palm Beach School for Girls, in that they individualize their program. Here is the house that they was the school on Chilean Avenue. And they had, once again, tutoring and continuing the education that the boys had in their northern boarding schools. So they would come down. And also, once again, just like Mrs. Gates, they had a very serious focus on athletic competition. And so before I go on, let me just point out some of these advisory boards. All of these gentlemen had sons who attended the Palm Beach School for Boys. Chester Bolton was a congressman from Cleveland, Ohio, and I'll tell you a little bit more about his kids in a minute. Rutherford Stuyvesant Pierpont was a descendant from the Stuyvesant family, which were the original Dutch settlers in what was New Amsterdam, which is now Manhattan. John Pillsbury was the grandson of the original founder of the Pillsbury Company. And I. Sheldon Tilney was a banker and financier from New York. Notice that dominant, the geographical areas that were dominant were the Midwest and New York. Yes. So I was speaking about athletics, and after classes were over, and once again, they had the same curriculum, a couple hours of instruction in the morning, then 2 hours for lunch, and then instruction in the afternoon. And after 4 o'clock, they had athletics. And some of the kids went to the Bath and Tennis Club for the tennis team, and those that were in the swimming club went to the Everglades Club for swimming. They also had boxing, and every Wednesday and Friday, they would go to boxing exhibitions at what was then the Oasis Club, which occupied the former Bradley tennis building. And the Oasis Club was also available for bachelors to stay in, and many of the Palm Beach School for Boys teachers, bachelor teachers, stayed there. And they also had the season-ending activity for both of the Palm Beach School for Girls and Palm Beach School for Boys was an intramural baseball game. And that tradition continued even into the 30s. And so that's pretty much. Do you have any questions, Barb?
I do, but before we talk about these, what I do find interesting is even from last week, or when we talked about the days before the 20s, even through here, we're seeing the 2-hour lunch, which continued at our school in through the 60s. I personally had advantage of the 2-hour lunch. Of course, and then school did go to 4:30, but we had the 2-hour lunch, so they have the 2-hour lunch.
I never got the 2-hour lunch. It ended. It was down to 30 minutes.
Yeah. So can you tell us about some of the grandchildren or great-grandchildren possibly of these children that are have currently or are currently or have attended our school?
Yeah, it's very interesting because a lot of it is full circle. So the land on which Miss Gates' School of the Out of Doors was on was owned by the Maddock family. And Paul Maddock went to the Palm Beach School for Boys, and then he went to Palm Beach Private in the 30s. And his children and grandchildren also attended Palm Beach Day at some point. And then there was a couple of sets of brothers are really interesting. There was John Jacob Astor was a financier in the United States at the time, in before 1912, and he had just married, and he and his wife Madeline had gone on their honeymoon 6 months in Europe, and decided to return on the Titanic. And she was pregnant. And as the ship was going down, he put her maid into a lifeboat, and he and his poodle stayed on the deck as the Titanic sank. She came to Palm Beach, and she married a man who was the chairman of the National Sugar Refining Company named William Dick Sr., and they also had a child, and both those brothers went to Palm Beach Day. There was also, I talked about Chester Bolton, who was on the advisory board for Palm Beach School for Boys, and he had 2 sons, Kenyon and Oliver, and he had been a congressman from Ohio, and his son Oliver followed in his footsteps and became a congressman from the same district. And his other son, Kenyon, became the U.S. ambassador to France after World War II. Then we also have quite a connection with journalists. We had 2 of the sons of William Randolph Hearst, David and his twin brother, Randolph Hearst, and they also went into the newspaper business, with Randolph running the San Francisco Examiner and David running the Hearst Corporation. Then there were another journalistic family, Edward Mclean and John Mcclane, who were the children of the couple who owned the Washington Post, and actually they owned the Hope Diamond also. Edward went on to work for the Washington Post, as did John, but John married a woman named Mildred, a nickname Brownie Mcclane, and she became the grand dame of society in Palm Beach for about 40 years. And their grandchildren are alums of the Palm Beach Day. And John had offered her the Hope Diamond when they got engaged, and she turned it down and donated it to the Smithsonian. Wow. And then there were, and another journalistic family, the Pulitzers, descendant of Joseph Pulitzer, who was actually a rival of Hearst, owning the New York World, and his grandson, Herbert Peter Pulitzer, and his sister Patsy also attended the Palm Beach School for Boys and the Palm Beach School for Girls, and later on Palm Beach Private.
And then their children and grandchildren.
And then their children and grandchildren. Absolutely.
Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I know one of the things we want to talk about in the future is some of the amazing families, large amounts of families that have come through our school. So do you have anything more
And the
to add?
founders. The
20s?
founders.
The founders?
No, I just wanted to say that, pardon me?
Okay, we got the internet went a little funny there. So go ahead, start over, please.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that these families then continued on to the Palm Beach Private School, and many of the founders were very civically and philanthropically minded and founded schools, the Society of the Four Arts, the what was then called the Crippled Children's Society, is now the Palm Beach Rehabilitation, the Norton, all of those things, the Red Cross, local Red Cross chapter. So they're a pretty interesting group.
So the next time you see us, we will be talking about the 30s, and actually that's the school building that we still use in the Palm Beach campus. That building is actually going to be built in the 30s. So thank you so much.
Thank
And
you, Barb.
see you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.